It's the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Tune in. Tune in. Tune in. Tune in.
You mentioned Darius, I believe you said last year was the first year that you both were in it. So talk to us about that. What were some of the ups? What were some of the downs in year one of being both fully in business?
Well, the ups were certainly, it's like the highs were really high, but the lows were really low, right? So say for instance, we end up getting capital and garnering funds and getting business from people and opportunities that we never thought, right? Mm-hmm. Random people or companies hitting us up, yo, we need this done, we need that done. Mm-hmm. But I'd say the probably the hardest thing was learning how to love each other in that space. Mm-hmm. It's one thing for me to go to work and then come home and, have to, maybe deal with the family for a few hours or so, but it's another thing to spend all day, right? I don't have a break, right? And so that taught me how to love and to breathe and to just be. Mm-hmm. and exist and learn to appreciate her and her appreciate me, because believe it or not, it was exercise, bro. It was a social gym intensive where it's like, well, even the smallest things became big things, but they're only big things because we're in the house all day. So yeah. So the highs were okay. The great opportunities are coming about, but the lows were kind of figuring out how to love each other and not just become business partners.
Work together. Yeah. I think that was probably the hardest, because again, while he was working, I was kind of spearheading a lot of the decisions just for the lack of time on his end. So he still was contributing greatly, but obviously because I have more time since I quit my job, I was doing a lot more. And so when he quit, you're kind of having to learn how to work together again, like you're actual partners. So he's giving more input than I was used to. And I'm like,
it doesn't go like that.
Hold on now. This ain't what I've been doing. And so it was a lot of friction at first, learning how to work together as business partners, truly. And of course, you're two totally different people. So you have two totally different ways of approaching. And then our personalities, he's big picture, vision, like large scale. And I'm like, detail how we get there. Like, okay, let's come down from the clouds and let's like, okay, what does that actually look like? So there was like a lot of tension initially. If we're just gonna keep it a buck. But it's like a beautiful harmony, because no relationship, there's no growth, I feel like, without tension. And I think sometimes in any relationship, marriage, friendships, business relationships, you're gonna have tension, and you have to learn how to work through that tension. So I would definitely agree. The highs were, we made a lot more money, but the lows were, okay, relationally, how does this look?
We got this money, but we don't want to kill each other. So
right. Right. That's real. So has the way you do the flipping business changed at all over the past couple of years?
Yes.
What are some of those things that you would say have changed?
Number one, we spearhead. We are general contractors. We've been that for the past few years now, and that is probably the single change, but the biggest change, because what that has allowed us to do is have a lot more control over subs and pricing and materials and things of that nature. She can go further into detail, but that single thing, becoming our own general contractors, that has made a huge
difference. And like you said, not just obviously cost control. What was funny is we were taught to, and there's an element of truth in this. When we were getting our education and training, we were taught, to think as a CEO, right? So we never were the type to actually do the actual labor, right? Even as general contractors now, we don't actually do the work we're outsourcing, we're using subs and stuff. But we were taught that, being your own GC was bad in a sense because you were not in that CEO role. But I realized that there's a starting point, right? And we were actually losing money by, let me rephrase that. We're decreasing our profit margins. We were leaving money on the table by getting a general contractor. One, because we weren't their only project. They had our project and a bunch of other investors' projects. They weren't really carrying it. They were probably, or more than likely, I know, upcharging on materials, right? And the time it took, because we weren't the only project, our projects were taking longer, costing us more money and carrying costs, and we're having to pay gas, electric, and insurance and interest and all this stuff. So like Darius said, that's the single biggest thing that has helped us tremendously. And we're very selective now in our flips. We've done so many. We're like, nah, we ain't touching that one. It ain't even worth it. The time and all that has to go into it and the money that we would potentially make, we can make that quicker somewhere else. And so we're very much more selective in what we're flipping. Like, it really has to be worth it for us to touch it now. Whereas year one, I felt like we were flipping everything with a roof. If we could flip it, we were going to do it. And we're like, nah, it's not even, especially when you have multiple streams of income now, it's like you can be a little more selective. So that's how I think it's changed.
Definitely. And as far as the criteria, what would you say, what are some qualities of a property that you would say, oh no, we're not touching this?
Oh man, it's all about margins.
Right.
It can look like whatever.
Right.
It can be a lipstick flip. It can be a total gut. It can be falling over, but it just comes down to money. If it costs too much and we know it's gonna burn us on the back end, like, we're not touching it. We used to do those hope projects where, okay, we're going to pay a little bit more, but hopefully with what we're going to do with it, we can get more money on the back end.
It's dumb.
After getting slapped over the head a few times financially, we don't do that no more. So at the end of the day, it comes down to the dollar sign.
Yeah, it don't matter how it look, because if you've seen some of our projects, they look like infested, like something gonna jump out at you. But at the end of the day, it's about profit margins. For us, our market in Louisville, the average is not LA prices. You can get a nice decent house around $225, $250, right? You're talking about, you can get a nice 3-bedroom, even 4-bedroom in some locations. Like, so those are our prices, just for context. And so you would have to, and we want to make around 40 to 50 minimum. That's our target for a flip. If we're not going to make that, it's not worth it to us. Because especially with the flip, you're thinking, for us too, we're usually doing full renovations. Between permits and all of that stuff, you're easily looking at about 4 to 5 months just to complete. And that's not even including the sale time frame, right? And so you could be looking at maybe 5 to 6 months. And so I'm not trying to put in 5 to 6 months to make $5,000 or $10,000. Like, that's not, I can wholesale, right? There's so much other things I could do to make that much money. I'm not going to do that. And so those are just kind of the things. It's really the numbers at the end of the day. The house itself is not the deterrent. It's what's the margins looking like.
Definitely. And I love that you mentioned that, because some people just want to buy everything. They want to get into the flipping business. And I'm sure a lot of people who've taken your courses and who you've consulted with, I'm sure you've heard a ton of different things, right? And so to your point, it's important to be objective about it, and not fall in love with property.
Right. We were talking to one girl, and especially in the flipping business, especially new people, they think the only thing they're thinking about is purchase price, renovation, and sale. They forget about those extra costs, the insurance you're paying monthly, the electric, the gas, the water, interest, especially if you're borrowing money. And God forbid your flip don't go perfectly, right? We've never had a flip go perfectly. So God forbid it takes even longer, or your general contractor don't know what they're doing. They underbid you and you end up thinking, oh, it's an $80,000 project and it ends up being 100. Like there's so many things they don't factor in. They don't leave room for error. And so you see so many people getting burned from flipping because they're not really being objective. And so that's where we come in and try to help people. Like, real estate is a high risk, high reward industry. It's one of the reasons why banks are a little slow to lend and give out business loans for real estate investors, because it's a high risk industry. But with that, it's a high reward. So you just need to know what you're doing. You can be very profitable and successful, but you can also, on the other end, people have lost a lot.
Hi everyone, Sam here from the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Make sure to hit that notification bell and that subscribe button, and to visit us at blackrealestatedialogue.com.